Hey everybody, this is Tevin with Keepers of the Garden. Today we're going to be showing how to plant a tree. Specifically, this is an ice cream bean tree. This is from Tom from Subtropical Nursery, and he provided us with this tree. We're going to show how to plant this today. The whole entire process from start to finish, how to start this, and this is what it's going to end up looking like. So stay tuned to see more. Ice cream bean tree. This tree grows really well in our zone, which we're in zone 9 here in South Texas. And this tree grows well in like the subtropical to tropical areas. It has an edible bean, which I'll throw a picture up here, that when it grows produces this bean pod that inside that has this white fluffy textured food that you can eat that kind of tastes like cotton candy and kind of feels like cotton candy. So it's a fun tree that once it grows, you get some interesting food from. It's very unique. But it's a great shade tree. It's a fast growing tree. And we're gonna show you how to plant. And this will go for this tree, but pretty much how you can plant any trees here in South Texas. This video will kind of cover the basics and get you going. So first off, we're gonna get our amendment, our soil amendment. Here, what we have is some buckets of some fresh compost. This is some fresh compost that we have. Thanks to Melissa for getting this compost ready for us to plant our trees. We're gonna be mixing this compost with a little bit of sand and some native soil, and then we're gonna get planting. So we'll show you what that looks like right now. So what we're doing now, we're gonna take our compost and our tree over here to a little mixing station I have set up. Here we have some sand that's mixed with just some of the native soil. Just gonna pick out some remaining weeds in there, some grass that I don't want to come along. And this is nice and mixed up in here. So what I'm gonna do now, gloves are optional if you like them, but typically all you're gonna need is a shovel, gloves if you like them, and then your amendments, your nutrients that you're gonna be adding in with your soil, with your tree. So we're gonna take our compost here. It's a nice finished compost, and you can see how dark that is compared to the dry soil. There's a comparison there. The almost black color soil or compost, that's what you want. This is, like I said, some native soil mixed in with sand, so it's gonna be a lot lighter. But that's just to show you how nutrient rich this compost is. So that's what it should look like when it's nice and finished. So we got some sprouts growing in there too. So we're just gonna take this and mix it all up. Again, take out any weeds and things you don't want in there. Kind of mix it all up. So it's actually really fun to use your hands. You get to feel all the textures and you get a boost of energy from all the microbes living in this stuff. So it's actually really good for you to get your hands dirty and get it mixed in the soil. You'll be happier afterwards. So we're just gonna get this mixed up a little bit more. So it's still looking a little dry. And the dryness is okay, but it's more, I guess, of a color is what I'm looking for. So we're gonna mix in more compost here. Put it all, it can't hurt to have more. You could do just compost if you wanted to. If you check this out, I think I thought I saw a worm in there. That's really cool. The worms are good. Get that mixed in. This one is a little bit more wet. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now we'll take the shovel and finish it here. Nice and mixed up. You could add in other supplements or things that you would want for your soil. Now would be a good time to mix in more of that. You could add in some like azomite, some trace minerals. But this compost is really gonna cover a lot of what I need. That's the main ingredient here. So now we got that all nice and mixed up. We're gonna take this over with us where we're gonna plant. Put the shovel here. Put our ice cream bean tree. So this plant likes well-drained soil. So that's why we're adding in a lot of that sand. All right, so this is gonna be the location where we're gonna plant our ice cream bean tree. So this tree does get pretty large, so we chose a spot. If you want to pan around here, Brandon, there's already a few trees around in select spots in this area that provide shade. But this side that we're currently standing in, besides the tall grass behind me and around me, there's not really much shade in this area. So we're going to be planting it inside of our fence, where the outside of our fence has about 30 fruit trees right now that are part of a continuous food forest that we are growing that will eventually encompass the entire outside of the garden. So we are planting a few trees, edible trees here on the inside that will also provide food and more, what we're going for is the shade. So to have some eventual shade here is really key in South Texas during the summer. Really majority of the year, it feels like 3/4 of the year is when we really need the shade. It's extremely hot out today. I think our heat index today was about 110, 115, something like that. So the feels like temperature was pretty high. So it's all about providing some shade. So down here, the ground is already pretty soft. It's been worked in before. So we're not working in a completely new area. If we were, this ground would be pretty hard to break into. So we have a lot of like dense clay around in the area. So going back to adding the compost and the sand, that's gonna help break up the clay. In this area, we've been planting food in this particular area for the past few years. So this ground is already pretty good. So it's gonna be easy to dig this hole. But typically what we're looking for when we start digging, so if you're looking at your pot here, you wanna go about double the size of this pot. So if you're looking at the entire pot, let's set this on the ground here. So you want it as double wide and double deep as the pot. So that's just a good generic, basic kind of intro for trees. You want to give it enough space for all that amendment, that other soil amendment they're going to be adding in. You want enough space for that. And then you want enough space for the root ball. So this is the root bar. When we pull this out, you'll see enough space for it to start growing. So you don't want to just throw it in the ground without really breaking it up, because those roots are going to have a hard time breaking through as it's just starting its growth into the ground here. So we move this to the side, start digging our hole here. Stuck on its trellising, it's going to be in there. It's okay, we'll just let that sit right there. All right, so just kind of jump in and keep your soil to the side. If you have this, we got a onion that we found in there. Guess I was hiding. Mm-hmm. It doesn't usually grow underground. I don't know how it got in there. Put that to the side. You can still replant that somewhere. So this soil is looking pretty good in here. So we're still going to add some amendments, but we know that it's going to be happy here. So you really want it technically to be wider than deeper. So I like to work from the outside in. Be easier cleanup if you keep all your soil in one spot. And even easier if you put a tarp down before, so you can put that soil right back in if you need to. Okay. Cool. Now that we have our hole, it's nice and deep. It's about 2.5 feet deep. Same wide. Almost 3 feet wide, so that's plenty of space. What we're gonna do is go ahead and add in our amendments here. So compost and sand mixture. We want majority of that in there. That's like perfect amount there. All right, move this out of the way. All right, so this is kind of an important part here, is the actual planting. You can see here where the soil meets the bark, meets the tree, right? We want to make sure that we're planting that at that same level. We don't want to bury it too far deep. We also don't want to expose too much of the roots. So we're going to kind of clear our space here. We know it's going to go a little bit deeper. Gotta move that stuff out of the way. Okay. So now what you want to do is just make sure you kind of squeeze the pot or kind of bang on it like this to loosen it. You want it to have a nice smooth exit from the pot. So we'll save our label. Let's put that right there. Okay, and we're gonna do this right over the spot. You're gonna kind of put your hand over the base, kind of shimmy it out. And you can grab it. Okay. So, the base of this, we actually want it to be a few inches above the ground. That's because eventually this is gonna settle, and you don't want it to settle below ground, where water may accumulate and cause it to puddle around the tree. We want it to be above the water if that does ever happen. So, find the base of your ground. This ground's a little higher than this ground, so you know the water is gonna kind of go down. So I'm gonna hold it up a little bit, and this is where we're gonna bring in our native soil. Okay. Just kind of breaking up all the clumps. So I'm just gonna lift this a little bit. I'll let that soil go up underneath a little bit. It's gonna kind of look weird because it's above ground, but that's okay. Just like that. And I'm just now kind of tucking that soil in to fill in all the air pockets. Just before I go and put the rest of the soil back around here. Okay. Now I'm just going to take our soil that we pulled out of the hole. Back in. So now we just want to go and kind of flatten everything out. Make sure again your base is where you want it to be. Go ahead and kind of give that some pressure. Push down a little bit and set it in the ground. And then I'm going to eventually put some trellising up on this so it can be nice and straight. But before, we're just going to make sure what we're going to do is kind of form this little berm around the tree. So when it does rain, it will collect some of the water. Kind of give it a little bit of pressure on there just to make sure it's nice and set. You don't want to compact it all the way too hard. You want it to breathe a little bit. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Our final step is going to be getting some mulch and mulching in all around here. We don't want to leave all this dirt exposed to create mud so the mud doesn't splatter on the leaves and cause infection. So we'll just put a nice layer of mulch around us like we have back here. It'll look like this. We'll do a few inches, 3 to 6 inches of mulch around the tree. And just making sure that we're not building up a lot of material around the base of this tree so you don't girdle the roots. This is where it breathes, down here. So we don't want to block this off too much. So we'll make sure that we pull out any remaining mulch or dirt that may end up here in the middle. So we'll go and grab some of that. We'll finish up here.
Dope.
All right, so here's our mulch pile. We're gonna get one small load of mulch so we can mulch our tree and then give it some water to end up in the planting process. So we just wanna make sure we get enough, like I said, to give a nice thick layer of mulch. This is also gonna help with keeping the water in the soil so it doesn't evaporate. So it's kind of like a blanket. Imagine putting a blanket on, keeps you nice and warm. Same thing for the plant. It's helping keep the moisture inside, helping keep the roots happy. So you want a lot of mulch. You can't go wrong with the mulch. So once you get a nice load of mulch, this should be good here. We'll go and put it on the tree. There we go. Oh, it's okay. Here's some slime mold here. See if we can, oh, it's already dried up. So usually when you open it up, it's like slime stuff comes out. It's cool. All right, so now that we have our load of mulch, we're gonna dump this right here. I'm gonna have to move it around. So this isn't gonna be its final resting place. Let's get the majority of that out of there. And again, we're just gonna use our hands. You could use a shovel if you need to. Spread this all around. Again, remember, I'm keeping it as much as I can away from the base of the tree. Just making sure I have a nice thick layer all the way around. All right, so that's pretty good. Now that we have a nice thick layer of mulch here, what I'm going to do is put this stake right here next to it. And this is going to be just to help it stay upright if it gets really windy. So what I'm going to do is I have some string here. There's twine. So there's pieces of twine here. Okay, and I already have these pre-cut ready to go. What we're going to do is just kind of tie the closest part to it that we can find, make sure it's straight. Tie this up. So the reason why we're doing this is to make sure it will grow nice and straight. The wind won't blow it over. Give it some structure, give it some support. We all need a little bit of support sometimes. Same thing for the tree. If you take care of it now, we may not be around to see this tree fully grow, but eventually somebody will be, to be able to eat the fruit, to be able to come and visit, sit under its shade. So it's pretty cool. This tree is leaving its own legacy just by us planting it. So this is a pretty fast growing tree. So, you know, we may see its fruit, but it'll still be here. It might outlive us. It may be here for 50 years, 100 years, or even longer. Just depends on how it's cared and maintained in the future. Who knows, someone could come and cut it down. Hopefully not, because we'll label it so people will know they can eat the food that comes from this tree. It should stay here for a very long time. So now we have some support on there, and it's pretty straight. It looks like it's going to, we'll have to add another piece later on to this tip. But for right now, this one will do. It's in there pretty good. And what we can even do is just keep these here for future growth. So let's tie these on the side so they're there for next time. And now the final part is to water. So I'm gonna grab the water hose. You all can stay right there. Soak this tree. Since it's brand new to being in the ground, it kind of goes through a little bit of a shock. So we want to make sure we give it plenty of water here in the beginning, so the roots will be happy, the plant will be happy. It's really hot right now. Not the best time to be planting trees in South Texas. The best time for planting trees is in the spring and fall, not with this intense heat, but with enough mulch and water, this tree will be fine. We've had a little bit more of a mild summer this year so far. It's early July, so still want to make sure I'm giving this plenty of water and care in the summer just to make sure it lives through the rest of the summer. But I believe that it will, because again, with enough care and just maintenance, maintaining the right soil conditions and the right environment for this tree, it'll thrive. So you can kind of see this is also helping with absorbing all this water here. So it's not, I mean, it's splattering around, but you see it's collecting the water and it's not running off. If it was just soil, it would just turn into mud, and the mud would just kind of slide off. And we would lose all that soil. We'd have a lot of erosion. So this helps with erosion, helps with retaining the moisture, protects the roots, protects the tree, keeps it cooler. So that's another big thing here in the summer. It's keeping this ground a lot cooler compared to if it was just exposed to the sun. So it's keeping this ground at a cooler temperature, so it's actually going to make this tree very happy to have a little bit cooler temperatures, even though it does like the heat. But established. So we'll kind of continue to let this water, again, we want it to get pretty soaked in, at least, you know, it's kind of filling that hole that we dug. But all that water is being kind of focused down into that hole, which is great. So just continue to water this for just a little bit longer. So I would say let this go for a few minutes to get it nice and watered. We will come back in a few minutes. All right, so we have finished planting the ice cream bean tree. So some of the last few things you want to think about after you're planting a tree is, you know, just go back, double check. You've done all the things you need to with staking it. One thing you want to pay attention to over the next few days, next few weeks, is one, when it's in this first beginning stage, again, making sure it gets plenty of water and care for its first month or so until the roots can get established and the tree can get established, where it'll eventually start to kind of take care of itself. It becomes this tree is a slightly drought tolerant, so it can handle not getting enough rain at this time of year in the summer when we're kind of in drought here in South Texas. It should do fine. As long as you get it watered and you care for it for that first month or so until the roots can get established, it'll be fine after that. So another thing you want to look at is this tree came like this with a little bit of damage on the leaves, but keep an eye out for that. If it looks like there's any insects taking over, you know, want to get those off of there and pick them off. Spray the aphids off if it gets aphids. Anything you may notice that just looks off, just make sure you're paying attention, really close attention in this beginning stages, so you don't risk losing all your leaves or risk the plant getting some type of damage or infection. Things should be pretty good, but it can't hurt to just keep an eye on it. And that's going to be all for planting this ice cream bean tree. Stay tuned so we can show the continuous growth, and maybe we'll do another video in about a month or so after the roots get established. The tree gets a little bit more established and we can see how much it's been growing, and you know, maybe eventually one day get to try some ice cream beans. So thanks y'all for tuning in, and until next time, bye.
Go.